That's where we beautiful people. Welcome to Color Me Royalty, the podcast. I am your host, Mihle Chiba. Welcome to episode 4. No, it's episode 3. Like on episode 2, I was like, welcome to season 2. Now I'm messing it up again, like it's episode 4. It's not episode 4. Welcome to episode 3 of season 1. And on the previous episodes, I spoke about what mental health is, what factors affect our mental health, and I spoke about how our culture has created this shame on mental health. And I also spoke about suicide and gender stereotypes and how we are expected to take part in traditional practices that might later in our adulthood affect our mental health. So on this episode, I will be talking about mental health in Black communities, what Black people think about mental health and mental illnesses, and how do we help normalize talking about mental health in our Black society with our families and friends. But Yazi, I feel like we need to create, before we can even normalize talking to our families about mental health, I feel like we need to create a safe space for Black communities where we can talk openly about mental health and educate the community about early signs of mental illnesses without labeling it as what do they call it, white people problems or witchcraft. A mental health illness is a human illness that can be diagnosed by any human race, not just white people, guys. Like we case here, my doctors are Black people. My psychiatrist is Black. My psychologist is Black. Where I get my medication, the pharmacists are Black people. So uyabona ukuthi really anyone can suffer from a mental illness, and doctors from different race can help you with your mental health. So I said I was going to talk about mental health in Black communities. I want to talk about apartheid. Apartheid is a South African history of racial segregation between the ruling white minority and the non-white majority. And basically, Black people were oppressed by white people. So this includes being humiliated by white people. It was not just physical abuse where Black people were beaten. It was also emotional abuse, or I can just say psychological abuse, to a point where Black people did not trust white people. So with that said, just imagine a Black person realizing that they might be suffering from a mental illness and they have to go see a white doctor. The white doctor Black patient relationship behavioral effects, it's not going to be easy for the doctor to actually help the patient, the Black patient, because of the stigma on mental health, but also the stigma on Black people suffering from possibly suffering from a mental illness. The impact of apartheid and racism in South Africa on Black mental health has affected Black people's self-esteem as well. And the role of racial identity in this relationship has somehow created this stigma. Unfortunately, mental health is often not spoken about it kwi communities zethu, our Black communities. Sithi zi-white problem, white people problems, okanye sithi bubuthakathi, witchcraft. And instead of seeking professional help for conditions like depression and anxiety is the most common mental illnesses that people suffer from. People in the community resort to self-medication, like using drugs and alcohol, and to somehow numb the pain or numb their feelings and try solve the problems on their own. Kakulu, you find that it is very young people who resort to alcohol and drugs to kind of deal with what they are going through, instead of talking about what's going on in their lives. It goes back again to mental health not being normalized. We don't talk about that. If someone says they're feeling a certain way, that we don't see as normal. We see them as crazy people. We label them as crazy people or tag them as being weak. So young people resort to alcohol and drugs, especially elokishini, in the townships. Elokishini yami, I see a lot of young people on drugs, and to be honest, that scares me a lot, because it scares me ukuthi this is our future. Kwixesha langoku, we shouldn't be afraid to be honest about what we're going through. But because we are not aware that some problems a person could be facing are mentally related, or in some cases, we know that some problems are mentally related, but we suffer in silence because of the stigma and discrimination on mental health. And I think the reason why a lot of people believe that mental illnesses are white people related illness is because you look at how mental health is presented on our television or social media, especially back in the days. It was always white people on the screens. And I mean, we thought maybe it's white people who are likely to suffer from mental illnesses and not black people. Where else you find a black person might show signs of the same mental illness, but we ignore that fact and instead we label the sickness as witchcraft. So you see how the stigma hides in our small black communities. And the weird part is that the number of black people suffering from mental illness is high, but it is not recorded because most black people suffer in silence. Look at how apartheid has shaped how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. You find that a lot of black people are suffering from anxiety and depression, and those people are old people who have experienced apartheid, but because they know nothing about mental health, they suffer in silence. They don't seek medical or professional help to actually help them with their anxiety or depression. Kwicase yami, no one suspected that I might be suffering from any mental illness. I tried so hard to hide the signs of anxiety and depression because I was ashamed and didn't want to be sent away to a psychiatric hospital or to be handcuffed on the bed. I mean, that's what we see on social media. You find a lot of documentaries, a lot of movies, a lot of series based on mental health. You see how they are portrayed. You find a crazy person, that's what they will say. It's a crazy person. They are all handcuffed and medicated and all of that, they are all shouting, screaming and all of that. They just on the manic stage. And that's what I was afraid of. I didn't want to find myself handcuffed to a bed because that's the only thing I had in my mind. And I tried to identify what I was going through, and it just didn't match. Nothing matched. I was like, okay, we have the same, we show the same signs of mental illness, but I feel like it was exaggerated on our televisions and on our media. And so that's why I just decided to just keep it to myself until I just couldn't keep it anymore. I didn't want that for myself, and being medicated, I was afraid of that. Just like any black person who is afraid to come out and acknowledge the fact that they might need psychiatric help. But I'm not ashamed anymore about my mental state, to be honest. I embrace my flaws and all, and I want to help those who might be suffering from mental health and from mental illnesses and not suffer in silence, to really open up about what's going on in our heads, especially with young people. I feel like I want to target a lot of black young people in my township, because I feel like that's where there is not enough information about mental health, and we have little health facilities that could actually assist with our mental health. So I think in the townships, if we had like a lot of information about what mental health is and actually have health facilities that actually deal with mental health, better educate the community members about mental health and identifying early signs of mental illnesses. In disadvantaged Black communities, young people are affected the most. You look at how COVID-19 has changed every single thing, every a person's life. Um, COVID-19 has added pressure and stress for young people. Jobs now need to be applied online, and it requires computer or typing skills. Schools are now also online. Attending online classes require surfing the internet, and some young people in disadvantaged homes, they don't have money to buy data so they can attend online classes or online courses. Now you find that young person, they find themselves depressed, and some even wanting to commit suicide. I mean, we cannot afford to allow that to happen to our young people because they are the future, right? We always say that young people are the future. Our young people should be mentally stable to face their future so they can make healthy choices. So imagine a depressed teenager resorting to alcohol and drugs because the price of education is high. Already that teenager or that young person's adulthood is messed up. I mentioned that apartheid played a role in increasing the stigma on mental health. Back in the days, like I said, white people were the doctors and Black people were patients. So that relationship, apartheid prevented a doctor-patient relationship. Black people didn't trust white people because they felt like they might harm them because of apartheid. Do you understand? And so I think there's still that stigma on doctor-patient relationship. If it's a white person, Black people hold back is to they hold back what they're really suffering from. They don't want to like be open about it. They feel ashamed about it. And like I said, mental health and mental illnesses were portrayed by white people. We saw white people on TV, and not Black people as much. Even though that has changed, but still, you look at how I am so proud of us. I like I said, like how it has changed. Now we see Black people on the screen talking about mental health, and it's not scary as before. But there's still people who don't want to acknowledge the fact that it does exist. Mental illnesses exist, and anyone can suffer from a mental illness. And if you suffer from a mental illness, doesn't mean that you're different from any person. You just need help, or you just need help with coping with the stress of life, and that's basically all. And I think that Black people still feel like it's a weakness to have a mental illness, especially young people. Like, it concerns me that as young people, it's hard for us to express ourselves. I mean, I made an example about my case, that I didn't want to be handcuffed to a bed because that's what I saw on TV. That, okay, if they say you're mentally ill, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what you have to expect. And that was not true. And when I actually did seek help, it was actually different. I was able to even be honest about what was happening in my life, and actually want a relationship with my doctors. And they were so kind and understanding and patient with me because I was off the roof. And they were really patient with me. They explained every single thing that was happening to me, and I was able to be honest with myself that, okay, I'm here seeking for help, and if I'm gonna make it out of this alive and well, I need to be honest. And I need to be honest with the doctors. I need to be upfront with the doctors. And to be honest, I have a really good relationship with my doctors. I'm pretty close with my doctors now. And if I don't understand something, I'm able to like text my doctor and be like, okay, this is what's happening. Do you think it's I should be concerned or not?